God creates miracles. This is real testimony from a dream that God brought me in 2007. In 2007, I was dealing with the crime of organized stalking and electronic harassment in my life, and I decided to leave the East Coast for a while and visit my father in Arizona. I thought a geographic cure was what I needed. My faith and my family were my strength through this period of my life. I stayed with my father in a campground in his RV while his home was being built. Unfortunately, a week after I arrived here, strange occurrences to our property began happening. After staying out here for a while, I had gotten a job in Tucson. The perpetrators involved in my stalking would bring fear into my mornings. They would come into the campground at early hours with dark-tinted window cars and sit there while the engine idled, either behind a bush or walking distance away as part of their harassment pattern. I was often awakened by the car engine in the morning and felt sickly as I heard them entering our campground. My skin was getting burned with directed energy weapons while staying with my father in the camper. They were also administering other effects on me as I laid in my bed trying to go to sleep at night. One late evening, I left the camper. I was very upset over my situation and went outside to lay down on our hammock. I decided to get a Sparks energy drink, part alcohol, to relax that evening. While outside, I tried to separate from the hostile surroundings as best I could. After a while, I decided to hold one of my chinchillas, so I brought it outside with me. I should not have, considering if it got loose in this campground, I would never find it again, not to mention the desert wildlife that was everywhere. I laid there with my pet on my chest, enjoying the moonlit night for a little while, when at one point I fell asleep and my pet wandered off. 30 minutes later, she was nowhere to be found. The next morning, I was heartsick and I couldn't believe I was so careless. And now my beloved pet was gone and lost in the desert. In addition, I had to go to work that morning. After I got home from work that day, the first thing I did was to go out and I searched everywhere for my pet, around the camp and the nearby fields, and found nothing. The next day, the same thing. That evening, I called my mother and told her I could not believe this happened. Her and I were crying on the phone and we prayed over my little pet. I prayed earnestly to God to give me another chance with my pet. On the third day in the early morning, between 4 and 5 a.m., I had been given a dream. I was on a vast hillside with tall golden and green colored grasses swaying in the air. I was standing beside my biological father. I was a child in this dream. And I looked across the hill, and I saw my lost chinchilla with its other chinchilla family members holding hands in a circular merriment of dance. I remember feeling such joy and seeing all of them reunited again, as well as the divine peace and unity of all that the scene had brought. I felt God was bringing me a glimpse of what awaits us in heaven, but most importantly, revealing to me His incredible saving love and mercy in understanding the difficulties we face in life. There was such a joy and quiet assurance from this miracle that God brought me. After seeing the reunion of the chinchillas while I was still in the dream, I then turned to my biological father and said to him, "Look, Dad, God creates miracles." At that moment, a silent inner voice brought me out of my dream and told me to get up and go outside to where I was last with my chinchilla. I laid there in my bed and I was still so captivated by the dream that I wanted to relish it for a few more minutes. I then heard the voice again telling me to go outside. I got up and I got a drink of water, but I was still so sleepy, but I heard that inner voice once again telling me to go outside. So I searched for my shoes and I stepped out. It was dark and the moonlight was still out for late morning, and as I walked in front of the camper to where the hammock was, I looked down at something ahead of me, projecting a shadow on the ground that stood there before me. As I rubbed my eyes and moved towards it slowly, I began to see definition at the top of it similar to chinchilla ears, large and mouse-like, and this thing did not move, very unlike chinchillas. As I came upon it, I was in awe. I couldn't believe it. I started calling out the name of my pet and I was trembling. I could not believe my eyes. As I came upon it, it surely was my lost chinchilla, stoically standing there before me. Its presence was one of, "How long were you going to let me wait?" When I lifted my chinchilla off the ground, she had a cut on her chest and cactus thorns in her fur. How did she survive in this desert, such a small creature? God is great. That was the best morning of my life. God surely does create miracles. God is always with us and working things out for the best. He conquers all.